To do this, what we need are two D1 heads, and then two softboxes, and then a Lex. So we'll have Lex come out in a second. But what we're going to do here is I want to set up multiple lights and show how you can meter each of the lights individually to create a light ratio that can be repeated. So it's something that's done pretty commonly in studio lighting. And these settings, light ratios just means how much brighter is one light to another light. And so in studio lighting, the light that's the main light, that is the sort of the anchor point of everything you're doing, is called either the main light or the key light. And everything is metered from that reference point. So you're saying the main light is at a power of whatever it is, and I want a fill light or secondary light to be half as bright as that. That's a 2-to-1 ratio, one stop difference. Or maybe 2 stops less, or 4 stops, whatever it is. And what you can do is, as you're diagramming out your lighting setups, you can start writing out these ratios, and you can use these. They're sort of like, think of them as recipes for cooking a good dish. So you can make a lighting diagram, and you know, hey, you know what, this is always going to be 5/6, and this other light is always going to be 1 stop less, this other light's always going to be 1 stop more. I'm going to put it in this configuration with these modifiers. And then if somebody wants to come in and have a look that's the same, I can do it every single time because I have that formula. And your light meter is like a thermometer or whatever else you use to measure, like a measuring cup, I guess. Just saying, is this right? Is this the same as it was last time? And it's very simple. So what we're going to do here is we have a D1 there. We're going to set up a second D1 here in a second. And then what we'll do is we're going to have Lex come on out. If I can get this. These new speed rings are they're not broken in yet. John, I'm going to let you deal with this so I can keep moving on. And is there one more soft box? We need one more soft box. Oh, I got this one. I got it. I've got it. Yeah, the other soft, we'll have to rip the grid off. So we're going to stick you right here. Thank you. All right. Bringing this guy over. Okay. So, to do this so that you can see, let's do it this way. Let's do it this way. Yeah, I'll have you spin around. Spinning around. That will be easier. All right, so I'm just going to put a little softbox on here. Need to, brand new. There he goes. There we go. Okay. Yeah, we're ripping off the grid on the other one. That's set up there. Good. Good, good, good. Everybody needs a John Cornicello in their life. That will help greatly. All right.
I think the chat rooms would agree with that one, Mark.
I know.
Everybody needs
what
a John Cornicello.
What would you do without a Cornicello?
Everyone's been complimenting you in chat, John, saying you're a staple here at Creative Live, and they love you.
Everybody needs John to help them out. All right, John, if you can just get that.
She's got the other softbox for you on that side.
Okay.
Hey, Mark, while you're setting up, another quick question.
Okay.
If you were only to purchase one ND filter and not a variable, would it be the 9 or the 5?
I love questions like that because those are impossible to answer. It's like if you only had to. For me, I would get the 9 stop because that's what I'm using most of the time. But I don't know what they need that filter for, so it depends. It all depends. I don't know. I would go with 9 because I'm using it for special purposes in the studio. But 9 stops is like crazy. Yeah, that's so much. Almost nobody uses a 9-stop neutral density filter. So I would get the 5. Yeah, I would say 5. But it's I probably wouldn't even get that because if you're a scenic photographer, what you need is a graduated neutral density filter that is dark at the top and transparent at the bottom, and it has a graduated, so it goes dark to light to nothing to block the sun and leave the horizon alone. And if I was trapped on a desert island and I had to choose which neutral density filter to get, I would get there are kits that you can get that have multiple neutral density filters in them, full 2-stop, 4-stop, 9-stop, graduated 1/3, 2/3. And so you can get these kits that are spectacular, and that's what I would get. Okay, so what we have here, we have 2 lights set up, and what we want to do is figure out how, and this is a lighting setup that's made specifically to figure out the relationships between these 2 lights, right? This is not a lighting setup that we traditionally use. So what I'm going to do here is I want to meter these lights independent of each other, and I'm going to make them very directional so it's even more obvious that we have a darker and a lighter side. So this is, again, just to illustrate this. So we're going to put these out to the sides. And the way I'm going to do this is specific to Seiconic light meters. John, do you have that light meter? Yeah. Okay. And then what we need to do is put a
Pocket wizard on both.
We just need one.
And go radios.
Just need it on one.
Going to go with optical slave?
Yep.
Okay.
So what we're doing here, because we need a pocket wizard to trigger these lights. That works. And so, and do you know how to set that to? Yep.
Yep. Right.
Yeah. So the way that this is being triggered, by the way, is this has a pocket wizard in it. It's telling this light is hitting this pocket wizard. This light is then firing because this is telling it to fire. This flash has no pocket wizard on it, but we've set it up. There's a little infrared sensor here, and it looks for any flash that fires. And when it sees a flash fire, it fires. So what's happening is this is telling this to fire, it's firing, that sees that fire, and it fires. And I've gotten the question a lot of, well, doesn't that mean this is firing slower than this one? Because it'd be blunk, blunk. It's moving at the speed of light, which is faster than the radio is going. So no, it's going at the same time. There's nothing, you can't go faster than that. It's as fast as you can go. Right, is that science? Speed of light is as fast as you can go? Good. Whew. All right, so what we're going to do here is I'm going to illustrate this. Remember, this is not a lighting setup that we would actually use, but the steps are what we're talking about. So we are going to first meter for the relationship, and this is going to be what we consider our main light or our key light. Okay, that's what we're going to say. Even though these look exactly the same, we have to start somewhere. So this is our main light. So I'm not going to meter to figure out what exposure to use on my camera. I'm metering to figure out how bright this light is. Okay? And so what I can do, and actually let me back up. First, you would meter the key light and get it set to the correct aperture value. So let's do that. So let's say we want the key light to be at f10. Okay? So I would meter this, and that's at f9. Let's take it. f9. That's good. Okay? Close enough. So let's assume that we've measured this, positioned it, metered it, and now we're starting to add other lights, okay? So what I want to do now is I don't want to meter this for proper exposure. I want to just see how bright it is. So I'm going to put the lumisphere down, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to point this from Lex's chin to this light. And the reason I'm using her chin is I need a consistent point to measure all of the light from. So using her chin, I know that I'm metering from the same distance from this light and that light. And so I can get a consistent and accurate reading. So I'm going to just swivel this so I can see the reading. So I'm going to meter this, and I'm pointing it directly into that light. And a lot of times I'll just stand in front of the other light because I want to make sure that this one doesn't get there. So I'll meter that, and it's 9 because I just metered it. And what I'm going to do next, there is a memory button on this meter, and I'm going to push memory. So F9 is now in memory. Then there's another little button up here, and it says average, and I guess I should do that. Can you see that? Sorry. Average, and the little triangle EV. That means delta exposure value. And we remember from math class that delta means the difference between. So what this is saying, when I push this, I can either get the average or I can get the difference between two different lights. So I'm going to push it, and there's this little A that shows up saying, if I click this and let go, the result that shows up is going to be the average between two different lights. But on this meter, if I push it and hold in, it's going to display the difference in exposure value. What is exposure value? It's going to be measured in stops. So if it says 1, that means 1 stop. If it says 2, that means 2 stops brighter. If it says -1, that means 1 stop less, -2, etc. And it might be 1.2 or 1.3. So I believe this measures in tenths of a stop. So what we want this light to be 1 stop less than this light. That's what we want, okay? And it could be anything. It's up to you to figure out your stuff. But generally, 2 to 1 light ratio, this should be 1 stop less than that. So what I'm going to do now, let's go to the other side. Remember, I've metered that. I put it in memory. I pushed my little delta EV button. Now I'm going to push and hold. And this says 1.8, which means that this light here is 1.8 stops brighter than this one. That means we got to take the power down on this by 3 stops. So on this one, I can go 1, 2, 3. 3 stops less. Now let me meter again. I know I'm going to have to adjust a little bit for that 0.8. So I do that. That's 1.2 stops less. So I need to go a little bit more because the 0.8, there we go. Oops, wrong way. And I think that's as low as this light will go. So we have to do something here. So I'll do this, measure it. Yeah, so it can only go down. This is at the lowest setting it can possibly go to, and it's only 1.2 stops less. So what I can do is I can move this back, right? And we're going to get less light when we move it back. But what's happening when I move this back? What's the penalty for that?
Harder light.
Harder light, yes. It's harder light. And so I'm changing the quantity or the quality of the light, which means sometimes this guy, you might need to get a little bit larger softbox so that they're the same size. And so that's one of those things you have to take into consideration. So I'll meter it again, and it's 2.1, so we'll take 1/10 of a stop difference. So now, this light is twice as bright as this light, or this light is 2 stops less than this, right? Or 2 stops? Did we go to 2 stops? We only wanted 1 stop, right? Yeah, so let's just go with it. This is 2 stops less than this one, even though we originally said we're going to go to 1 stop. We went to 2. So that's 4 times less powerful, because that's the square, right? Yeah. All right, now, I know I need my coffee. Now we're going to meter this, and we're going to meter it for exposure. So what I need to do is I need to clear the memory out on this. So all I need to do on this meter is go to a different mode and come back, and that clears the memory. On other meters, there's a memory clear button. They didn't make that on this one. You just change modes and come back, and it works. So now we're going to measure for exposure. And the reason I'm measuring back here is if I meter right here, I'm blocking my light. So I can either come back here and measure like this, or sometimes you're going to have lights behind, and that won't work. So sometimes you just have to worship and do this, right? And that'll work just fine. So let me go ahead and meter this. There we go. 7.1 is what we got. So all of that light together is 7.1. Let's take a picture and see what it looks like. Let's see what it looks like. I like that shot of you, by the way. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. All right, 7.1. So I'm putting my camera to 7.1. We're going to take the neutral density filter off. Can you hold that? Thank you. And we're going to shoot this shot. Shoot the shot. And what you'll see is we have light fall off on one side of Lex's face, and we have a nice pleasing portrait. And if we wanted to repeat that look 1,000,000 times, we would know 2 2x3 softboxes, make this one 2 stops less, and off to the races we go. Okay? So that's how that works. For my taste, this might be a little bit, need to go down even more, that one up a little bit more. But, you know, there's the portrait. Works pretty cool. And again, this is not a setup I would normally use with those lights totally to the side like that. All right, so do we have closing questions? I think we're out of time. Is that right?
I actually had a question about the shape of the softbox of your preference usually? What would you use? A square, a rectangle, or do you go to
These are the
octagon?
soft boxes. These 2x3 soft boxes and the 4x6 soft boxes are the soft boxes I use every day. And that's why we have them here, because I wanted to use the same stuff. So that's what I use.
And
Yep.
what's the advantage to the octadome versus
The-
these, or
well,
the
it's
other way
the-
around?
The octadome is great for shooting, the specular highlights are round, which I sort of like, but also it's very large. It's very, very large. And so it works terrific for full-length shots. I've done a lot of shots that are environmental, where I have like somebody in a chair at a little place, and I use that to get in there. And it just seems to work a little bit nicer than a big square softbox, to get in a little bit tighter, because since it's a different shape, I'm able to cover more of the area than just a square. I'm covering more area. Does that make sense? Yeah. Covering more area by doing that, and I think it looks a little bit nicer. So, but the thing is, if there's a photo club in your city where people share photo gear and do shootouts and stuff like that, you should do it. Because A, you get to meet a lot of cool people, but also you get to see the differences between different types of umbrellas and softboxes and octaboxes and stuff, because people will bring stuff, and I can describe it to you, but until you see it, it doesn't really, you don't have handles on it, really. And so I can say, yeah, the octabox is better for filling little places on location, and the big 4x6 softbox is better for beauty shots and things like that. But until you see those pictures and actually experience it for yourself, it's not going to sink and be in your brain.